Okay. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in to this important presentation as we are about to begin Phase 3 of our reopening plan. On behalf of our entire faculty and staff, I want to thank you for being partners with us during this global health pandemic. We understand that this hybrid model isn't always easy for everyone, but your children's safety is our absolute top priority. And I know I've said this before, but if there was ever a time that it takes a village, it's obviously now. Your support during a child's learning at home is greatly appreciated. You should know that this year's hybrid model will look and feel differently than the spring when we had to abruptly close due to the COVID closure. Students must be actively participating when they are learning from home and tuned in. It is not optional, and it does count as a day of school. And we want to work with you to give them the very best education, considering the circumstances of how we are teaching and learning this school year. Acushnet Public Schools is here to support you, and we hope today's presentation will clarify things as we move into Phase 3, and we will give you opportunities to get your questions answered. Please be very careful with obtaining information from social media, as it is not always accurate. As a rule of thumb, it's best to communicate directly with the school district, meaning your child's teacher, your child's principal, or any other administrator to get the most accurate information. And again, thank you so much for joining us today. Today's topics, we will be discussing these 5 main topics: health and wellness, teaching and learning, technology, building updates, as well as communication. And the idea is we want to work with all of our families to support you and the success of your children during this Phase 3 of the hybrid model.
So welcome, everyone. I just want to take a few minutes to go over some health and wellness updates for families, for our school community. As Dr. Bailey said, health and wellness right now is our main priority, and we want to thank everyone for their support. Our students are clearly well prepared. We've been very excited to have them back for orientations and on a small scale, and the students seem to be very comfortable with wearing masks, social distancing. That we've had very, very few issues, and clearly parents have been reinforcing this at home, which is wonderfully helpful. We continue to have multiple mask breaks during the day. We continue to encourage our students to be wearing masks and practicing proper hand hygiene. And again, social distancing is the other way that we're keeping everyone safe. And especially our little ones, we're teaching them new ways that they can have fun and greet their friends even with social distancing. I wanted to take a few minutes to go over our medical protocol, just a few bullets for families to understand what our system is if we find out that someone becomes ill during school time, and we just wanted to make sure that everyone has the same information. So if a student is symptomatic at home, again, if they have a fever, if they have coughing, if they have loss of taste, all the different things that come along with potentially a COVID diagnosis, we want to make sure that students stay home and that they get tested. If a student is on the bus and they get to school and we find that they have symptoms on the bus, we will make sure that that student remains masked. We will be sure that there is strict adherence to physical distance requirements. The nurse will meet that student at the bus upon arrival to school. The student will stay with the nurse in the medical waiting room until a family member can come and pick up the student. I do want to reiterate that our policy is a little bit different this year during the pandemic. We will not be able to house students in the nurse's office for long periods of time like we have in the past. So parents will need to immediately pick a student up from school if they're called by the school nurse. I did want to also reiterate that if you have not updated emergency information, this might be a great time to do that, and add any potential people onto your emergency list that could be coming to pick up your child if he or she is sick during the school day. No students will be sent home on the school bus if they are symptomatic. I also wanted to highlight just some quick bullets around staff. So if a staff person is symptomatic at home, the same for any other individual in the district, we ask that they stay home and they get tested. If a staff person becomes symptomatic at school, they will notify administration. We will provide them coverage and we will send them home. If we do have staff or students that go and get tested, if the test results are negative, then that individual can return to school as long as they have no symptoms for at least 24 hours. If an individual tests positive, again, just as all of our COVID guidelines are saying, we must remain home, monitor the symptoms. Please notify the school, whether you're a staff person or a parent, please notify the school if you have a positive test, whether you're an adult or a child. That will also help us notify close personal contacts, as well as let the Board of Health know that we have a positive case in our district. The Board of Health will be contacting you if that is reported, so please be receptive to those calls, either from our local Board of Health in Acushnet or from the Massachusetts Community Tracing Collaborative. They are assisting towns with contact tracing for anyone that you've been in contact with. Most people are reporting that they have very mild illnesses and they will still need to stay in self-isolation for at least 10 days and until at least there are 3 days with no fever and improvements in other symptoms. I also wanted to highlight, in order for students or staff to return to school, they must provide a negative COVID test if they have tested positive. If an individual chooses not to be tested,
sorry, Kim.
That's okay. He or she must remain home in self-isolation for the 14 days as recommended from the time that you had symptoms. So again, I just wanted to add this slide because I know we are really distant from our families right now. We're not seeing people in person as much as we do in a typical school year. So I wanted to just be able to put a face to a name for your child's counselors. Mrs. Carroll and Mrs. Power are at the top. Those are the elementary counselors. Mrs. Trahan, Mrs. Tatro, and Mrs. Poulis are our counselors at Ford Middle School. I've also included their extensions so it's easy for you to see who your child will be having for a school counselor this year. And please use this information to reach out anytime that you have any needs. The counselors are here to support your children in school, but also support you and your children at home. We will have our counselors spending time in each classroom this year, so they're going to be helping to support all students, not just students who have normally seen the counselor in the past. But really, we thought it was important this year with everything happening to support all of our students who may be feeling anxious or struggling with the conditions. So they're here for social emotional needs, social skills training, working with kids around their feelings, building friendships, and other great topics. And again, please feel free to contact your child's counselor if you feel that you need support or your child needs support.
Thanks, Kim. So I'm going to provide some information on how families can support their children in terms of teaching and learning. So we're going to go over some resources, some guidelines, and really focus on the student responsibility piece of this as well. So hopefully you have found our Wildcat Tracks. This site is really a one-stop shopping for communication going home to families. There's a live calendar for our hybrid model that you can click on and see further details. There's a site for the elementary school. There's a site for Ford Middle School. But in addition to that, there are teacher websites which are providing one-click access to Google Classrooms for your children, the Massachusetts Learning Standards, and student learning guides. I'm just going to take us in very quickly for those of us that haven't explored this yet. So you see our Wildcat Tracks. You've got different pages at the top and then one site for each of the schools, and you can find Ford Middle School here. So expectations for learning. In each of your children's Google Classrooms, you will be finding student learning guides. There's a student learning guide for the elementary school, and there's a student learning guide for the middle school. Let's take a look at each. So this is a blank grade 1 student learning guide. This document will be posted in your child's Google Classroom, and it really is a resource for your student to use for each lesson that is posted in the Google Classroom. And for some reason, my screen is frozen, but you can see that students have access to their learning goal so that they can verbalize what they're learning every day in their classes. Teachers are providing formative assessments with their check-ins, they're providing live instruction, they're providing group work, they're providing independent work, and then some form of assessment in terms of an exit ticket to make sure that what is happening in the classroom is actually providing success for students. There might be homework for your child in the class and there might not. Student or teachers may write not applicable. You might see an NA in some of these boxes, and that's all right. We're going to do some differentiation and provide some review. So you will also see links to opportunities for your child to review before a lesson. And you're also going to see opportunities for enrichment, ways that they can extend their learning and take the lesson to the next level. So I'm very excited to support families with these student learning guides. And again, you will be finding, your child will be finding them in their Google Classrooms. So another goal for this year is the development of this concept called student agency. And when we talk about student agency, it's really helping our children take ownership of their learning. And there's a couple of ways that we're encouraging families to help their students with this concept of student agency. Students should be able to explain to their caregiver what they're learning in a specific lesson. So have a conversation with your child. What are you learning about in math? What did you learn today in science? Other ways that we're hoping to develop student agency further is for having your child know how they can get help. There's going to be help on remote Wednesdays with live office hours, both at Ford Middle School and at the elementary school. A student or a parent or a teacher can arrange a Google Meet. There's also extra help on Wednesdays beginning October 7th. And again, we're hoping that our students will initiate this extra help, but there may be a time that a parent or a teacher needs to initiate the extra help. But it is available, and we are looking to support our students with this concept of student agency. And another way that we really want to promote students taking ownership of their learning is by supporting them with completing their assignments. All assessments, all schoolwork, all homework. That's how we're going to have a successful year.
Good afternoon. Some tips that might help this transition or this combination of learning at home. You want to start by establishing some routines and expectations. Try to chunk the day into predictable segments. You know, wake up, prepare for the day, make sure you log into school, and then when it's all said and done, make sure you take some time to relax and exercise, and try to set some reasonable bedtime so students are ready to learn for the next day. Choosing a good place to learn is important. Those places where you did your homework in the past, or maybe even where you did your spring learning, might not work anymore for this extended period of time learning at home. Be sure to check in with your child, make sure they're okay. You might start by asking some of these questions. You know, what does your day look like before they log into school? Or maybe shortly they log in. Do you have everything you need for the day? As a parent or a caretaker, what can I do to help? At the end of the day, you might want to be sure that they got through all your assignments. How far did you get in your assignments? What went well? What was hard? And what could we do to make tomorrow a better experience if there were glitches with technology, or maybe the assignments weren't able to be finished? So have those conversations with your children to be sure that everything is going smoothly. Support phase 3, this phase 3 hybrid model, by talking with your child about the importance of student agency, that is taking ownership of their learning. The goal is to get them as independent as they possibly can, depending on their age. You want to be sure that you're checking in with all the websites, the newsletters and emails. There will be a lot of communication coming from school to home. So be sure that, you know, both you and your child or your caretaker and child are up on all the communication. And please go directly, as it was stated before, go directly to the source for information. We know that it's easy to open up a phone or an app and maybe find an answer, but go to the school, go to the people who are going to provide you with the correct information. And in all this, please try to find balance. Establish a quiet time away from the screen. Even teachers are concerned about how much screen time kids are going to be having. So that does include TV and video games. Try to get your children outside, get some exercise, get moving. It helps for your health, your well-being, and also helps with learning.
So our technology department here in Acushnet, the faculty and the staff have done a tremendous job of providing some guidelines and some help and some platforms. So let's take a look. The platforms that we're going to be moving forward with this year, we're considered a G Suite school, or Google for Education school. And what does that mean? G Suite includes the Gmail, the email accounts that all of our students have. It includes Google Classroom, which is the platform that your students are going to be receiving their instruction and their assignments. It includes Google Meet. Google Meet is similar to Zoom, where live learning is going to be taking place. Drive, which is like a file cabinet digitally found in your cloud. Docs, which are documents for delivering written materials. So we are a G Suite school, and that are some of the features that we will be interacting with. An important thing that's happened this year is that every student in grades K through 8 has a school-issued Google account. And that is new this year. Even our kindergarten students, our first grade students, and our technology department has done an outstanding job of getting them ready for the beginning of this school year. An important thing that teachers have asked to share, and it's bolded for importance. Students should only be logged into their school-issued Google accounts on their school-issued devices. If other accounts are logged in, it makes for a confusing process. So please make sure that when your child is logged into their school device, they're logged into their Acushnet school's email only. At Ford, Aspen is providing a parent portal, and you can view your students' records and grades. And another feature that's really awesome that the tech department is providing is this platform called Go Guardian. It allows faculty to see what students are doing and determine if they're off task. You may, as a parent, receive an update regarding screen time concerns. So be aware for that. Guidelines. Now, I know this slide has a lot of content on it, but I also want to identify how much work has been done by the technology department, by our faculty and our staff in really providing a very fine amount of online learning expectations and responsible use guidelines. So if you can take a look over here and see our student online learning expectations. At the elementary school and at the middle school, the faculty have created grade-specific online learning expectations. So let's take a look. Here's grade 1. This is outlining for our students exactly what they need to be doing while they're online for their virtual learning. Let's go back and let's take a look at 5th grade and how it looks different. So our online learning expectations, again, were developed by grade level teams to be developmentally appropriate for our children. And it outlines exactly what our students should be doing while they're learning in a virtual world. And then some more guidelines that have been developed for this year are technology responsible use guidelines for students, and we're affectionately calling them RUGs. And these really speak to how students will be interacting with their hardware and really speaking to the responsible way that they will interact with technology in general. So we have K4, we also have responsible use guidelines for grades 5 through 8, and we'll just take a quick peek at those as well. We've made them developmentally appropriate and a little different for our elementaries and our middle school. In addition to that, this is something new this year. We will have a form for damaged, lost, or stolen Chromebooks. And all of this is online on Wildcat Tracks. The form is going to be very simple to fill out and captures the information so that when a Chromebook is lost or stolen, we have a means of a different means of tracking it for the upcoming year. And then the last thing we have is virtual meeting guidelines as well. And this was developed by one of our faculty members. And it's just a nice, handy way of communicating expectations once again to our students. So again, just thanking the technology department, the faculty, and the staff for working so hard in providing this, the learning expectations and the guidelines for our students.
Mrs. Stoffel, if I could just add a few things, if you don't mind.
Please do.
Thank you so much. So just really quickly, I just wanted to provide the families on an update around our Chromebooks, especially for our elementary school students that are waiting. So to date, we have been able to distribute Chromebooks through all our middle school students in grades 5 through 8. We have also distributed what we call emergency loaner Chromebooks to grades 3 and 4 at the elementary school. These are for students and families that don't have any other form, any other device that they can use. The expectation is that we're going to be handing out, and the form will be going out either later on today or tomorrow, to our grade 2 families that are in need of a device and have no other device available. That being said, the expectation is within the next 2 weeks, what I'm hearing from my vendor is that we should be receiving our shipment of Chromebooks for all of our elementary school students. At that point in time, the goal is to provide a Chromebook, like we said before, to each individual student at the elementary school. So that is coming. Like we've said in the past, it's just taken a little bit longer because of the backlog of devices because of all the school districts looking to source them. So that is really good news. Like I said, grades 3 and 4 have emergency loaner Chromebooks. Grades 2, we should have them next week. And by the following week, we're hoping to get all the Chromebooks out to the elementary school students pending our delivery. In addition, Terry did bring up the Aspen parent portal for our middle school families. And one of the things that we have spoken about and we're hoping to make happen in the near future is that we're going to be opening up the parent portal at the elementary level. What does this mean? This simply means that parents of elementary school students will have access to the Aspen portal, in which electronic report cards can be posted to and other correspondence can be posted to the online Aspen parent portal. So that'll really help, especially during this COVID year in which we're trying to do as much as we can electronically and remotely. So report cards will be able to be posted to those parent portals. And the hope is to have those portals opened and live before the first report cards go out. And then just one last note is that for those families who have asked for and who qualify for Verizon hotspots or internet access at home, those have been ordered, and those should be coming in as well in the next week or so. And I'll be reaching out to those families that do have a need to access the internet. That being said, I would like to just remind all families that Comcast does have a program called Comcast Internet Essentials that does have provide internet access to families who qualify. And it's simply the qualification is if you qualify for free and reduced lunch, there's a form that you have to fill out through Comcast, and you have to provide an approval letter that you do qualify for free and reduced lunch, and you're able to get subsidized internet service through Comcast. I want to say it's somewhere in the ballpark of $9.99 a month. So that is another option for our families. And one last note is that we now have internet access on our fields. So on the big toy area in the back of between the two schools, on the soccer field to the right, in that area, the tennis courts, those all have, that area now has public Wi-Fi access. So it's a great spot too. If you don't have any internet access at all, we have the Acushnet Public Library. There's free internet Wi-Fi on the deck there outside. In addition to, we have the fields now out here at the Acushnet Public School. So I thank you for your time, Mrs. Stoffel.
Oh, you're welcome. And that, for anybody that didn't recognize it, was Chris Oliver, our Chief Technology Officer. So thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Just to piggyback on what Chris was saying, for anyone who is in need of technology help, I want to share that on Wildcat Tracks, we do have a digital toolkit. You can click on it, and it takes you to a lot of resources that may be helpful. It may be helpful for you, it may be helpful for your students, but in this box over here, you have the Chromebook orientation, the rugs and some guidelines, and hopefully if you're in need of support with Google, there's lots of tutorials here and help. So this is a resource for our community as well. And again, it can be found on Wildcat Tracks. In addition to that website, we also have 3 different means to be asking questions. If you have questions about Aspen, you can email Kathy Shabbat. If your student is having trouble with their device, with their Chromebook, we ask that you please email the help desk at acushnetschools.us. And also, if you're having trouble with the login for your school-issued Gmail accounts, just email that help desk as well. And I'm going to pass off to Mr. Johnson.
Well, hello, everybody. It's really nice to be able to speak with you this afternoon. I'm here to provide some updates about the elementary school. The first thing is to please use the morning checklist to be sure that your student has everything they need to avoid parents having to drop off items. So Ms. Stoffel, if you could you please just click on the morning checklist link?
Absolutely. Yep.
And on this list are the medical things that Mrs. Bencourt has already spoken about earlier in this presentation, the checklist of symptoms that you should be looking for in the morning. And when you stroll down to the bottom piece, you'll find some items that students could be bringing to school in the morning to put in their backpacks so that they're prepared for the day. When the weather is nice, we are going to be taking our mask breaks and our lunch breaks outside when possible. So please feel free to bring a blanket or a towel, bring your snack each day, and a water bottle as well. Make sure that your children are dressing in plenty of layers for warmth. It's easy to be able to take a piece of clothing off if they get too warm. We'd rather have them have that available to them. And if you are arriving late to school, if it's after 9:05, please use the same procedure that we have in the past of going to the main office to bring your child into school. And the parents do need to escort their child up to the foyer in the office to have them brought into school. So within our classrooms, we are going to have the classroom windows open to increase airflow. Again, please make sure your children are dressing in layers. All of the classrooms are spaced out at 6 feet, and all of our students will be wearing a mask at all times. Mask, water, and snack breaks will take place outside when the weather is appropriate. If the weather is not appropriate for going outside, we will be using the gym and the cafeteria for those breaks. And we have another slide to address that a little bit later. So our arrival procedures are actually the same as in previous years. However, we're just going to take a much slower approach to this so that we are taking into account all of our safety guidelines. So for buses in the morning, we'll only be letting a couple of buses off at a time. For walkers and kindergarten families, please park in the lot between the schools and walk to the library or the gym doors. Kindergarten will always be going to the library doors as you did last week or this week for orientation. Riders, please go through the chute as you have in the past and remain in your car until asked by staff to exit. We do ask that all students be on the passenger side of the car so that they can get out on the curb side. This is for safety reasons, as we don't want passing cars to be near our students. And as with everything, we need to make sure that students are remaining socially distanced during the arrival time. So for dismissal, again, it's going to be a similar procedure as we've had in years past. It'll be a reversal of the arrival procedure. Students will be loading the buses a couple at a time. Kindergarten students will be exiting through the kindergarten door where you dropped them off in the morning. Walkers and riders will meet. The students will go to the gym and they're going to wait for their names to be called. We are enhancing our system from past years. Walkers and riders have name placards that will be given by the classroom teacher that has the student's name on them. This year, we are including a QR code also. This will allow us to go by and simply just scan the QR code in your car, and it'll create the list of the order of students for dismissal, which will make it more efficient for us as well. So when you come through the chute for dismissal, please make sure that you have your QR code available for us to be able to scan. And again, we will be sure to be maintaining socially distanced guidelines for arrival and dismissal.
Mr. Johnson, if I may say, I think your QR code for the placards is fabulous. What a great idea.
Thank you. I've had quite a few people work with me to try to get that into place, and I'm pretty excited about it.
It's awesome. Truly awesome.
So in terms of nutrition at the elementary school, as you've heard before, breakfast and lunch are free to all of our students through December 31st, 2020. Students can opt to bring a home lunch if they would like to do that. Students will be leaving at the end of the day with prepackaged meals. So students that are in cohort A are going to leave on Mondays with a breakfast for Tuesday morning, and we're asking for you to please eat the breakfast at home. When they leave on Tuesdays, they will have with them a breakfast and a lunch for Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and also a breakfast for Monday of the following week. Students in cohort B, when they leave school on Thursday, they will have a breakfast for lunch at Friday, again to be eaten at home. And on Friday when they leave, they will have a breakfast and lunch for Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday, and a breakfast for Thursday. And then for both of the schools, it's important for parents to know that students will be eating lunch and snack in the cafeteria and gym. If the weather is appropriate, we'll go outside, but if it is inclement, we will be inside using the cafeteria and the gym. The cafeteria and the gym are also used for our mask breaks. Students will be sitting at individual desks that are spaced at least 8 feet apart, and all of the desks and chairs will be disinfected after each use. I think that was all for my slides. I'll turn it over to Ms. Silva now for FMS.
Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Mr. Johnson. It's Mrs. Sylvia here at Ford Middle School. The building, the teachers, the staff, everyone was happy the last 6 orientation. The school feels so much better when the students are here. So we are happy that we have 2 more orientations, and then on Monday we start and we have these half of our students for 2 of the days in school, and we're so happy for that. We have the same morning checklist, the same items, the same COVID checklist that you ask yourself and you ask your children if they're feeling sick. And then please ensure they have all their items. And that Chromebook completely charged is one of the most important things. If they have the Chromebook and it's not charged, it's really not going to be helpful during the day. So we need to make sure we have a completely charged Chromebook every morning, that they have their water bottle, they have their lunch. They will not be changing for PE this year, so they do not need a change of clothes for PE. Students are encouraged to bring that blanket or towel to use outside for mask breaks or lunch, but it's not required. If they choose to sit on the grass, they can choose to sit on the grass for their break or their lunch. Like Mr. Johnson, students should dress warmly. Last Monday and Tuesday, it was not as warm as this week, and the building was a little chilly, so a sweatshirt would have been helpful. Some students took off the sweatshirt, but at least they had it to stay warm. We ask that if you are arriving to school after 8:05, and that's once this arrival process, we get into the flow of the arrival, but if the doors are closed, and if there's no one else at the side doors to let your children in, you need to go to the main entrance. You do not need to come into the school with your children. You can pull on up. Your child will get out of the car, will buzz, Mrs. Grace will let them in, and they're good to go for the day. So there is no need for you to escort your children in like you do at AES. Thanks. And like at AES, all breakfast and lunch are free. We are asking all students to eat breakfast at home. We are sending home students with the breakfast for the next day, for the lunches and the breakfast for their remote learning, and for the breakfast the following week. Breakfast at home will really ensure that they are, that's the safest way to have the breakfast this year, so at home. A little different this year for arrival, we needed to separate the students. Instead of using the one door, we have two doors as of right now. Grades 5 and 6, like you did during orientation, you'll enter in the north doors facing AES. Grades 7 and 8, you're going to enter through the south doors, and that's the superintendent's office, the business office. Please, parents, stay in the chute. And we can get 6 to 8 kids exit in their car at the same time. We have enough space and to remain socially distanced. When those 6 or 8 exit the car, they're on the sidewalk, parents will pull up and another 6 to 8 cars will come on in. I know it's a little different from past years, but it has worked and we will get it down to an exact science. So thank you. Dismissal, we will all dismiss out of the same door, the private transportation door facing the AES school. Parents, please back into your parking spaces so that you have an easier exit when leaving. Please remain in your car while the students exit. We're not using the chute system for dismissal. That would back up traffic because all 4 grades are going out that way. And students will be reminded to maintain social distancing because we're all not leaving from the same spot at Ford. Students will trickle out at that 6 feet spacing. Thank you.
So communication is something that we are committed to providing in the best way that we can. And we thought it would help to have a slide that kind of clarified the role of each of us and how to reach out to us for questions. So I really like this grid. It really outlines when you should be contacting the classroom teacher or maybe guidance. Maybe you have a technology question and here are the help desk emails and Kathy Shabbat for Aspen. If you have a question for me, if you have a question about teaching and learning, I like just using those 2 words. Please feel free to reach out and ask away. And your building principals really have the bulk of all the other questions and regarding student placement, discipline, any concerns about the building in general. And let's not forget, if you have a question for student services, Kim is there to answer them for you. And then if all else fails, and if your questions can't be answered by one of us or haven't been answered by one of us, then we suggest that you reach out to Dr. Bailey. Dr. Bailey, do you want to take this slide?
Sure. So what we've developed is a platform or a mechanism for families to be able to ask questions, any new questions. We've certainly put on our Wildcat Tracks frequently asked questions, but we know this is, I want to remind everybody, this is new for all of us. There is no playbook on this hybrid model. We are working, I want to commend our staff for the hard work that has been put into this. Because they do it because they want the very best for our students in Acushnet. But we know new questions will come up. So we've actually developed a new Google form that can actually be found on the homepage of Wildcat Tracks. Mrs. Stoffel, I'm wondering if you can take us there so we can visually see what that looks like. And our goal is to provide families with a response within 24 to 48 hours. And again, thinking about the topics that we had today, whether it was a technology question, a teaching and learning question, a building question, you're going to have an opportunity through this form to really identify what type of question. Your question will actually generate an email to the administration that people can then respond and send you an email back. Are we able to get on?
Yep, we're here. And would you like me, I'll actually just take a second and show how to access the form.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Sure. So here's the front of Wildcat Tracks, and you can see it's the first thing you see as it's brought up. All you need to do is just click on the form, and the form pops up, and you can type in a little bit of information to help us. And then, oh, well, you're gonna have to fill that out first. And then the next page will take you to where you can type in your question. So we're very excited to share this platform with you and look forward to seeing what questions you have.
Again, I want to thank everyone, all the staff, faculty and staff at Acushnet Public Schools, because this has been a heavy lift, actually, a tremendous undertaking for sure as we move forward with this hybrid model. And one other thing before the next person goes, I want to remind people again, please, if your child is exhibiting symptoms, I cannot stress this enough, please keep them at home and know that they can still access their education through the online platforms, and they will still be counted as being present in school, which is a benefit. This way, we're working together to keep everyone, students and staff, safe. So thank you.
And I just want to close with this quote. As a mom myself with a child in school during this global pandemic, I found this article to be very helpful for me. It's recent, it's relevant, it was in the New York Times, and I think it sums it all up. Parents are being asked to play a bigger role in their child's education than ever before, and because of that, they should also be given the information that will allow them to do so. So all of us here at Acushnet Public Schools hope that you feel informed, hope that you understand how to support your children, especially during our remote portions of their week. And we look forward to a very strong partnership ensuring the success of all of our students. Thank you so much for your time today.